Hi, it's Magenta/Winter here, and I'm here with one of my 1-minute videos, and this one is going to be about going over what employee violations look like in the workplace for a lot of things that you may not be familiar with if this is one of your first jobs or you're just not as familiar with certain things. And I've actually had 2 lawsuits in the past that involved a lot of these aspects, so I'm very familiar with this, and a lot of the specific things that I'm bringing up are in fact illegal and chargeable. However, sometimes things fall under multiple categories and depending on the situation might be called something else. But regardless, they're going to fall under one of these categories, but this is going to give you a good idea of what that looks like. So, in your work experience, if you have been told to do your stages, or not be late to your stages, or had to go into little locker room meetings to be reminded that you have to do your stages and you can't be late to them, because that's actually work that they'd be requiring of you, and you paid to be an independent contractor. It's not part of your job, and I know it's in your contract, but it is an illegal contract and they cannot enforce it. It is in violation of federal and state labor law. So it is 100% useless to them. Nobody cares that you didn't do your stage or you were late to your stage because you signed a contract. The only thing they're going to care about is why dejavu is forcing girls to work illegally with illegal contracts. And so with that said, it's harassment if someone is telling you, hey, don't be late to your stages, don't be late to your stages when you're an independent contractor. And if they're threatening to send you home over not doing your stages or being late to your stages, they're creating a hostile work environment. Harassment and hostile work environment are things that companies will get charged for, and it will cost them up the ass. And so, again, in our contracts, there's nowhere that it says that we're in 100% control of our content as independent contractors. There is no requirement of us contractually even, but especially just through the law, for us to be naked when we perform. And it's totally up to you if you take your panties off or even your top off in your performance, should you choose to do stages. And so if someone is hounding you, having meetings, reminding you to take off your panties or any part of your clothing during your performance, that would be sexual harassment. And so I am not claiming sexual harassment against any of my customers or the situation working. I'm a big girl. I got into that knowing what that was going to be what that was going to be like, but the management is there. We're paying them to protect us and give us a safe work environment. And so it's absolutely unacceptable what's going on from the club standpoint of management. I understand that customers, are going to be a handful sometime. That's all to be expected. However, I expect the people I pay, the people who are licensed to run this business, to provide me with what they are required to provide me with and what I pay them to provide me with. So, with that, they cannot harass you or sexually harass you. In a lot of instances, there's a lot of discrimination. Perhaps you and a girl are wearing a very similar or perhaps the exact same outfit. And then you don't you're not allowed to wear it. You're told you'll be sent home if you don't change your clothes, but yet the other girl's allowed to. That's an example of discrimination. There's a lot of it. You might just find some girls don't have to do stages or different things that they don't want to, or get charged different amounts or given different credits. All of those would be examples of discrimination. There's also discrimination of an injury. So I had an injury and I had a lot of issues with that. They wouldn't let me work with it. And but I pay them, and I'm an independent contractor, and I was making money working there, running my business the way I'm supposed to. But when one of the managers made an issue about it, they determined that I was required to do stages because our manager gets to tell us what we do. And so that right there is just so inexcusable, because as an independent contractor, you do not have a manager, you do not have an overseer or a boss of any kind. You do not answer to anyone unless you're breaking the law or damaging the property of the club. So, they cannot require me to do work. I had issues. But regardless, when I first came in injured, I was given time off, but yet I was attacked by dogs, so I literally came in pretty mangled, and I made one of the ladies cry when she saw me, one of the managers. So they gave me some time off. They didn't give me as much as they said, and I re-injured myself and had to take additional time off because I have a floating chunk of my toe that's out because my doctor wanted me to wait to 8 weeks to come back, but when I crushed my toe with a KitchenAid mixer that fell from the counter, because that's my luck. And so they brought me back at the beginning of 5 weeks, and so I had to do 12 hours of stages, and my poor little toe, it re-broke itself and is now part of the crushed pieces or floating out. And so that was my injury. I was given time off for part of it, but there's a lot of girls who come in with injuries such as breaks, tears in tendons, sprains, ringworm, and they're not given time off. So that's another example of a discrimination of an injury. One injury is being catered to and not another, or I'm not allowed to work because I have an injury. And so that's all very illegal. And like in the instance of ringworm's highly contagious. You can't have someone spreading spores because it's a fungus. It's not actually a worm. You can't have someone spreading spores everywhere, not cleaning the stage in between girls, and then having these girls go up there and touch the stage or the pole or anything. Like, that is just a cesspool for everyone getting ringworm, which is part of why we're independent contractors and we're not supposed to do things that we don't want. So if you have ringworm, please don't go on stage. But in fact, don't go to work. In fact, fix yourself before contaminating the rest of the world. It's very contagious and hard to get rid of. I rescue cats, and so I've had to deal with that with animals, and it's just a nightmare. So yes, if you haven't liked someone like hassling you about being on stages or minimum shift lengths, if you've had issues like by not having pay stubs, I remember there was a girl offering $1,000 to anyone who would put $1,000 that she was going to give him. So she's literally going to give you $2,000 because she needed $1,000 to bail her boyfriend out of jail, but she didn't have pay stubs, so she couldn't do it. So she's literally offering someone $1,000 so she can bail her boyfriend out for $1,000. But as an employee, you are protected and you are like entitled to pay stubs. And so there is so many aspects of this that you would be protected from. There's also a mental and emotional abuse called gaslighting, which is actually a chargeable and criminally punishable offense. And so for like me, when I was hired and told that I could work within my doctor's notes because they don't control my content and they don't control what I do because I'm an independent contractor, and then to be told that I have to do stages, I have to do this, I don't get to pick my job, and this is what I agreed to, or for girls who are signing and they're like, well, do I have to take my underwear off? And or they read the contract, which literally says you don't have to. Like, it specifically says you can if you want to. You acknowledge that right. You won't be offended by others doing it, but you're in no way signing over any right stating that you are required now to always take off your bottoms. And so with all of these things, like, these are huge violations of your rights, and if you didn't like them, there's reasons you're being sexually harassed, and if it's becoming where anyone's saying they'll send you home, one, they'd be in material breach of contract because they have no right to ask any of this of you, and two, I mean, this is what you're protected from as an employee, and if you've ever needed to have a break or go get some food or whatever it is, or not work a minimum shift length, like, you are protected for all of these. You're supposed to get lunch breaks, time off. There's so much that as an employee they're not allowed to do that they are violating you. And so what I'm hoping you guys understand is all the bullshit you go through that you're just like, this can't be right, or like, how can they do this? They can't. The only reason they can is because nobody's doing anything about it. And right now we have a huge group of us who are doing something about it, and one of the best attorneys in the country. And if you want to participate in this, like, honestly, I hope you're angry, because we have all put up with so much bullshit, and it's not even our job. Like, even if you're okay with saying, I make so much money there, doing a little bit of work, no big deal. The government is the other person being stolen from in this little arrangement that they've got going, and so the government does not allow you to give up that right. You can't just work for free, because you're also robbing the government out of their money, and so this is a really big deal. And I know that a lot of those things don't have as much to do with your life, but I hope you understand, you should have been getting tax returns, not having to pay taxes on being an independent contractor. And you should have had pay stubs. You should have had breaks, and no one should have ever told you couldn't wear something unless it was illegal. If you want to wear a sexy cardigan or a blanket, if you don't want to take anything off on stage, all of these different things, that's fine. And if you find that you have, like, depression or all these, like, beaten down things about you since this, like, that's what the gaslighting is about, is all these different aspects of it where we're reading one thing in a contract and then being told that that's not what it says. It breaks down your confidence, so you're not going to do anything ever again. If you say, well, I asked the girl and she said I didn't have to take off my bottoms, and the contract said I didn't have to take off my bottoms, so what do you mean I have to take off my bottoms in a locker room meeting? And they're like, well, it's the contract, you signed it. Like, you doubt yourself, you now feel like an idiot, you're humiliated, and then you're probably never going to speak up in a big group again for one of your rights because you realize you just don't understand and you got yourself in a situation where you're in over your head and you're just going to have to do your best to be a big girl about it. But the reality is that's not okay. That's a form of abuse. It's called gaslighting and it's punishable by fines and prison time. So it is not okay that this has happened to you. And I hope you're angry because we've all been really scammed into something and going through a work experience that has been completely bastardized by the club taking advantage of us and maintaining this scam, which is working us as employees, meanwhile making us pay so that we'll believe that we're independent contractors. But again, their contract is in violation of federal and state labor law. So there is nothing about it that we get in trouble for not fulfilling. They just get in trouble for their contract being what it is. So I hope that helps answer some things that you're protected from. You're protected from sexual assault and rape, and there's all these different benefits and precautions that companies would be taking, if you were properly classified as an employee and this happened to you, and you deserve all the protections for all the hard work that you girls have been doing. And just in and of itself, to do pole, you have to be in like Olympic level of fitness. Like, it is crazy. And it's being, I think it already is now an Olympic national sport. And so, yeah, you burn thousands of calories doing this. So you can't be doing 9 minutes off, 9 minutes on, 9 minutes off, for 4 hours waiting for more girls to come in. That is a horrible abuse of a human. Like, it's appalling. And if people knew what was going on inside of these clubs, people wouldn't believe it. And for all those times you felt like it wasn't fair, it's more than not fair. It's illegal, it's punishable, and people would support you if they had any idea what you were going through. And so I know this video ran a little long, but I hope it gives you some good information about the different things that have been going on that just simply aren't okay, and that if it has upset you, if it has affected your life, any of these things, or your relationships, or you've suffered PTSD or any kind of trauma through having experienced the club in a way that they've been running it, please, I encourage you to reach out to the attorney, because there are so many recoveries and remedies available through this suit to help you have a chance at healing yourself and having a different work experience, and really anything you're wanting to get out of it, whether it's to continue working in the industry or to be able to just take a break, raise your kids, go to college, and focus on healing yourself and finding out what else it is that you'd like to do from one end of the spectrum to the other. You girls have worked so hard and been through so much that I hope you take advantage of this opportunity to hold these people accountable, and I hope you enjoy what the lawsuit brings for your life as far as money and opportunities.